We're going to talk about narrative essays. I love narrative essays because what's a narrative essay? It's just a story. Everybody loves a good story. Okay? So that's what we're doing. Yesterday we spent a lot of time hearing each other's stories. Okay? There is a great way to tell a story in English, i.e. the narrative essay. Okay? And I'm going to tell you how to do that. And there's an okay way to tell it, and then there's a poor way to tell it. Okay, so we're gonna focus on writing a great story. Okay, and listen. We're gonna take our time. We're gonna talk through each step today. Okay, of what you need to think about as you write a narrative story, and hopefully by the end of today you'll have some real clarity in your mind on what to do. Okay, so we're gonna do that. We're also going to practice writing a short narrative, okay? I need to get a writing sample from you guys today. So we're going to do a writing sample as part of our work. And then, before we do the writing sample, though, we're actually going to look at an example narrative essay, okay? And we're going to talk about what makes it good, what makes it maybe not that good. So we'll be doing that as well, which I think some of you, maybe learn better by looking at an example and then seeing how to go from there. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. So, before I do anything else, let me step back here. Isn't this beautiful? I took part of my lunch to put this beautiful stuff up here for you guys. Only because I love you. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We love you.
All right, thank you. So listen. What are the steps to writing a good essay? Did everybody have the paper from yesterday that I gave you?
Yes.
So let's whip that out, because all it is an outline on the board of this information. I have to charge extra for pictures. All right. Everybody doing okay? You got the paper out? All right, good. All right, cool. So hey, somebody, let's see. Let's have, Ivan, will you read this little paragraph on the narrative essay right here real quick for us?
Okay. You are not logged in saving...
Ooh, wait a minute. Are you on the same... Start with narrative essays are...
Okay. Narrative essays are commonly assigned basis of writing at different stages through school. Typically, assignment involve telling a story from your own life that connect with class themes. It can be a fun type of assignment to write. If you approach it properly.
It's the idea of correctly.
Learn how to choose a good topic. Get a solid rough draft on paper, and revise your narrative essay.
Excellent. So basically, can somebody summarize the most important point here that it's making? What did you just learn? Yeah, what did you just learn?
First of all, you need to choose a good topic. That's
Yes.
the right one.
Yeah.
After that, you write it on
Outline, like outline.
on a draft.
Yep.
After that, revise your narrative. That's it.
Good. So listen, picking a good topic is critical, okay? And we'll talk about how to do that. Should this be fun or should it be boring?
It should be
sad
fun.
and-
It can be fun if you approach.
It can be fun. So listen, if you're not enjoying yourself, then you're probably not getting the point here, okay? You want to think of, and let's just jump right into this. How do I pick a good topic? Well, first of all, it should be a fun topic, okay?
Yep.
So you need a... Listen, man, you guys, I agree with Charles. The best thing about ELS is the students, the students, the students. Yeah? Why? Because you guys are interesting. I mean, you guys have been to places I can't even imagine. You've experienced life from a completely different perspective. And that's interesting. And it makes me more interesting because you give me your interesting things to experience myself, right? So, listen, here's the number one thing. Personal story. Don't tell a lie, first of all. Don't make something up. Pick something that is true and personal to you. Okay? That alone, that one thing, will make this enjoyable. Alright? Make it real. Make it your experience. Okay?
Yeah, that's the hardest step.
It can be. It can be. Why does it seem hard to you?
I mean, like, sometimes you don't remember what you have done, you know what I mean? So, you gotta take
So,
lies.
yeah.
You need to make up something.
My memory isn't perfect either. But a couple of things to think about. Yeah, it's like, what if I can't remember everything, right? So how do we help ourselves remember? Ask who? Ask what, sorry, what did you say? Ooh, you could. I mean, if it was something that happened in your family, you could call somebody up and just talk through the story with them. Yeah? I've done that with my dad. Actually, it was kind of embarrassing. Remember the story I told you about the girl who died on the table? So there was a church that invited both my dad and I to speak at the church together. And I told the story in front of my dad. And he got up and he said, it's pretty much true. But I said the girl drank like a gallon, like this much poison. And he's like, it wasn't a gallon, man.
Yeah.
It was like an ounce, right? So it's a good idea. If it's possible, you can always go back and talk to somebody. But what if you don't have that possibility? Who do you got to talk to?
Write points, the points of your story on the paper. It will recall that story in your
Yes,
mind.
good. Hey, with this kind of an essay, we call it creating a chronology, and we're going to get to that. But make an outline of the main points in the story, okay? Of what happened and what you think are the big points. And that's really a brainstorm, isn't it, for this kind of an essay? A story happens in time, and you want to think about what are the most important events. And we'll talk more about that. Key point number one, make it a personal story, okay? Point number two, make sure your story... What's the prompt?
The question or the topic that you will ask.
Yeah. And I'm going to give you a prompt. Okay, so that's pretty important. So if I ask you to tell me about an event that changed your life, like we did yesterday, and instead you tell me about something really funny that happened, and it had nothing to do with the prompt, well, number one, you just got a 0 because it's off topic. But number two, listen, the prompt is also going to lead you to the important thing that you need to talk about. Remember, this is a story with a purpose, right? So if I ask you to write about, tell me a story that changed your life, then you need to be more specific. How did it change your life, right? It made me more honest. It made me more patient. So it needs to be about the prompt, but that can also help you create your thesis statement, right? Okay, so that's critical. Thirdly, the story, and you know what? He makes some great points. As we go, look at number one real quick. Let's go back to point one. Choose a story that illustrates some topic or theme. Ahmed, read. Generally,
a narrative, essay, and flow to main
components or parts.
A story and some analysis of the story.
Okay, stop there. That's critical. All right. So we're talking about two components here for an official narrative essay. It needs to be a story, a personal story that happened to you, But then somehow you have to take the story and show something, well, not more details, but it needs to have a point. So you analyze the story and share the purpose with the reader.
Like, what's the goal of the story?
Yeah.
Benefit.
Yeah, what's the benefit? What's the important lesson that was learned? And so you need to kind of help the reader. You tell the story with a purpose. Okay? Keep reading.
A narrative essay may be about a
Particular, that means specific issue.
theme or concept, but it uses a personal story to illustrate the idea.
So listen, again, it's the same point here. It could be about a particular issue. So I could write abuse up on the board, okay? And ask you to write a narrative and somehow think of a story from your life about abuse. I didn't say what kind of abuse. It could be abuse, verbal abuse maybe. Maybe someone yelled at you and hurt your feelings really bad, and you don't have any confidence anymore. Maybe it was physical abuse. Maybe someone beat you when you were little, and the effect that it had on you. So I could pick a issue like abuse. I could just say addiction. Maybe you've gotten addicted to something. It could be alcohol. It could be pornography. It could be
Heroin.
It could be heroin. I hope not. But it could be any addiction. It could be something as simple as I'm addicted to sweets, right? And then listen and tell the story, but have a point to it. Yeah. How can you master your addiction or something like that? Or how can you develop self-control or what you learned important from it? It could be about a concept. Themes, concept, issue, they're all kind of somewhat similar. Anyway, you're going to use a personal story to make the point. Turn the page. Keep reading on it. Most of the time,
narrative essay will involve no outside research or references. Instead, you will be using your personal story. You provide the evidence or some point that you are trying to make.
So listen, we were talking about, what if you can't remember? Well, listen, everybody's human, okay? The point is, pick a story that's vivid to you, right? Pick something that you really like. You still remember that moment, okay? And of course, everything's not going to be perfectly accurate. That's not the point. The point is the main point you're trying to make. Why was that story, how did it affect you, and what's the important lesson behind it, okay? So you don't have to remember exactly everything accurately, but the point of it should be a good lesson. It should be important, and you should do your best to describe it the best you can remember it, okay? But no research is involved. Yeah.
Is the narrative essay a formal essay or no?
It is a type of informal essay.
Informal, right?
Yeah, teachers love using it. It's just a different style. Is it formal or informal? Well, I mean, we heard from a college professor that's doing it at university, right? It's just another style of writing in English. I would say it's much more informal. And we'll even notice in this particular essay, you're going to use what kind of pronouns?
I.
First person pronouns, which is a big no-no when you're writing real formal academic essays. But that's just because it's a different style. You're telling your story with a point, okay? Keep going. Narrative.
Narrative essay are common school assignments used to test your creative storytelling skills as well as your ability to connect some elements of your personal life to a topic you might be discussing in class.
Yeah. So it is a wonderful way. Teachers use it all the time because, listen, there's this theory in teaching if you can connect what someone already knows from their past to what you're talking about right now, that they're much more likely to learn the information, right? Or to remember it. So that's why it's a powerful tool to help students learn. Okay. All right, point number 2. Make sure your story fits the prompt. So look at the bullet points right here. And actually, Faisal, will you read the important points under that for us?
You experience
Adversity.
and had to overcome.
Okay, hey, listen. These are very good prompts, and I will probably choose one of these for the essay, but they're giving you like sample prompts that I might write up on the board. Okay? So the first one is you have a big adversity or problem in your life, and you had to overcome it somehow.
You failed and had to deal with the consequences of that failure.
Okay, some big failure with big consequences. Wrecking the car, right? All right, second.
Your personality or character was transformed.
There you go. So yesterday I asked you if something happened that changed you, your character, the way you think.
You experience discrimination or experience privilege.
Ooh. So, did you ever experience discrimination in your life?
Yes.
Did someone treat you like garbage just because you're who you are?
Yes.
Or the opposite? You know, did you run into some American that thought you were a millionaire Saudi, so they were pretending like they were your best friend? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the opposite of discrimination. That's privilege. So you could have a really interesting story both ways, couldn't you? All right, point number 3. What does it say? Abdelmanek, can you read that?
The story must have a
Manageable.
flow.
Do you know what this means, manageable?
Manage.
Yeah, it means,
Able to.
yeah.
Able to.
So let me ask you a question. Are you going to want to pick something like, I want to tell you about the greatest year of my life?
No.
Is that a good topic?
No.
Year.
Yeah! I'm going to write about the best year of my life.
Too general.
It's way too big!
You write a book.
Yeah, you want to write a New York bestseller novel? Then fine. But we're writing a 400-word paper. So what would be better? Instead of year, change it to
Day.
day, maybe. The best day ever in high school. Or the day I crashed my dad's car. Or, you can get more specific. The moment I died, right? And the whole thing could be about that 1 minute that you thought you were dead or something, you know, or maybe you did die and came back from the dead. I don't know. So does that make sense? Let's read what he says. Look at who would read the bullets for me. Would you like to read the bullets? Bad narrative.
Bad narrative essays are generally too broad. My senior year of high school or this summer are examples of stories that would be far too big to tell in the amount of specific detail that a good narrative essay requires.
With me? Okay, just too big. Keep going. Yeah.
Can I note what something happened to me in the weekend? Just 2 days.
That could work. Pick a specific event, though. Like, you don't want to describe your whole weekend, necessarily.
Yes. Some event happened this week.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, you could potentially do that. Try to focus in as much as possible on the important event that happened. But yeah, that would work over a weekend.
Pick a single event from the summer or a single week of your senior year. Not something that takes months to
Unfold. Or to happen. You okay? Keep reading. You're doing a good job.
It's also good to limit the number of characters you introduce. Only include other characters who are absolutely essential. Every single friend from your 5th grade class will be too many names to keep track of.
Yeah. So listen. You don't want to have too many characters. Generally, when something powerful happens to you, right, there's 1 or 2 other people involved. So really, try to, as you're thinking about your event, think about who the most important other person is or other thing is, okay? And limit it to maybe one other person, two at the most, really, okay? All right, then, number 4. Will you read number 4 for us over here?
Use an exciting and vibrant story.
Do you guys know what exciting means?
Yes.
It's like, you know what vibrant means?
Opposite.
No.
No,
It's more exciting.
Vibrant means colorful, bright. Use lots of adjectives to describe what you're saying. Use great verbs.
What about vibration? Is it the same?
It's, no. Vibration is, yeah. Vibrant means, like, you could say it's vibrantly colored, it's bright, it's beautiful, it's vivid. You can almost, you can see it, you can taste it, you can smell it. All right? So try to think of stories that are exciting, okay? And that are vibrant. I mean, it's almost like you're taking me back to the Sea of Aqaba, sitting at Swiss Care, right? And suddenly I'm attacked, you know, by a wild dog, a wild camel on the beach. I just lied. It's not a personal story. All right. The camels did come up and go swimming in the water. It was fun.
Yeah.
Just kind of like jump in the water.
Yeah, there is.
It's kind of fun. All right. Number 4. And well, that's what we just talked about. Listen, let's talk about some ways to make it exciting and vibrant. Islam, read point number 1. Let your imagination.
Yeah. Let your imagination fill in the gap.
Yeah.
When you are describing your grandmother's house and a specific weekend you remember spending there, it's not important to remember exactly what was cooking for dinner on Friday night, unless that's an important part of the story. What did your grandmother typically cook? What did it usually smell like? Those are the details we need.
Yeah. So remember, you're creating a visual picture in our minds through your writing, and you want to take us to your grandma's house, and you want us to feel what you felt when you were there. What did you smell when you went to your grandma's house? What do you remember her doing? Like, if I remember my grandma's house, I remember she would always sing in the kitchen, and she was very religious. So she would sing these religious songs. You want to hear a religious song she would sing? I still remember like that. Yeah. She would say, "Do Lord, oh do remember me. Do Lord, oh do remember me. Way beyond that blue. I got a home in glory land. How about you? I got a home in glory land. How about you? Way beyond the blue." And I remember just sitting there listening. So, but they don't sing those songs anymore. Those are called old hymns. So she would always sing that, and she would always get ice cream out of the freezer. And she would just let us have as much ice cream as we wanted. Sometimes if it was winter, she'd go outside and get a scoop of snow. I remember this. She'd put it in a cup, and then she'd pour Pepsi on the snow. And we would, that was my grandma. Oh, it was also a big deal to sleep with grandma. Yeah, her husband died of cancer. She actually had 3 husbands, and they all died. Ooh, not good. But one thing I remember is she would always let it take turns sleeping with her in her bed. And I remember the night it was my turn. I got to sleep, and she would tell you stories while you would lay there. And then in the morning, she said I was a terrible sleepmate because I guess I rolled over her twice. Too funny. All right. So, keep going. Who's reading?
Typically, narrative essays are non-fiction, which means that you can't just make up a story.
Yeah.
It needs to have really happened. Force yourself to stay as true as possible to the straight story.
Yeah.
Don't be like.
Yeah. Yeah, don't start making up stuff. All right? If you start talking about flying off buildings and picking up cars,
There's something wrong there.
we're out of memory?
Too long, 25
Too long,
minutes.
yeah. Okay, that's all right. I know, we're talking too much. All right. Anyway, be real. Be as honest as you can about the situation, and that's okay. Okay? If you got to add a little extra to make it a little more vibrant, you know, don't lie.
Spice.
Be realistic. But spice it up, man. Put some spices on it, baby. Okay? All right. Writing a draft. Let's talk about the second step, writing a draft, okay? Outline the plot. Let's take a look at that. Number one. Hold on a second. Where is it? I'm lost.
Same page.
It's on the same page. Yeah, okay. Hold on, I gotta back up. I kind of got lost here. Vibrant details,
Page 3.
Page
major
3.
plot points.
Page 4.
Are you listening to me?
Here's the title. Here's the.
Oh, tricky business. Okay. Anyway, thank you. All right, why don't you go ahead and read number one? What does it say?
Yeah, just the big points.
Actually, okay, so this is the point of number one, okay? We're talking about writing a draft, and what's important to remember as you draft, okay? So we're looking at outline the plot. Read bullet number one.
It helps to limit things as much as possible. While it might seem like we need to know a bunch of specific details from a senior year, try and think of a particularly
Tumultuous.
day from that year and tell us that story. Where does that story start? Not the first day of school that year. Find a better starting point.
Good. So listen. One of the reasons, listen, you don't really brainstorm like you normally do a normal essay. The way you brainstorm this thing is by outlining the plot, okay? And what I recommend, just draw a line on a piece of paper, okay? And just in your mind, think of the major things, okay? And maybe limit it to like 3, 4, 5 major things that happened during the story, okay? So, again, be careful. You can't get too big here. Keep it specific to the most important things that happened in the story.
We will use past perfect a lot, right?
You could. Yeah, if something happened before something else in the past, you'll use a lot of past perfect. When you're talking about the importance of what happened, it's very possible you'll use present perfect. It happened in the past, but it's still affecting you right now in the present. Yeah? So think about those verb tenses. All right, keep going.
If you want to tell the story, of your prom night.
Do you know what a prom night is, by the way? Prom night.
Prom.
Anybody?
Before graduating, there's a prom.
Yeah.
For the high schools.
Correct. So it's usually a big dance, a big party
Yeah.
for the juniors and seniors a lot of times. Okay, so big prom night.
Yeah. Does it start when you get dressed? Maybe. Does it start when you spill spaghetti sauce all down your dress before the dance? While that might seem like the climax of a story you want to tell, it might make a better starting place. Go straight to the drama.
Yes, this is critical. Hey, people keep asking, how do I start this crazy thing, right? What do I put in my introduction? This is a nice idea. Think of the climax or the most dramatic part of the story and consider just jumping right into it with your first sentence.
Teacher, what does climax mean?
Dramatic?
No, climax.
Climax. Climax means the most intense point. So like you ever watch a movie, like an action movie, right?
Yeah.
It's the point when you see the pretty girl hanging off the cliff, right? And you see the superhero running to like dive, and everybody's sitting there going like this. That's the climax. Right before he grabs her hand and saves her.
So I should begin with that?
You could. It's a nice idea. Now, a nice strategy is to actually start right off with the crazy climax in the story. And then you may have to backtrack.
Yeah, like what about if I just begin from the beginning? Like I want to talk about like something happened in the school. So I will start to say like when I was in the school and my first day, like I'll begin to talk about myself in the very
Background a little bit.
In the intro?
But teacher,
Please.
Well, listen, so the answer to that is, listen, the beauty of this, guys, there's a ton of options here. Okay? Remember, you need to have an attention getter, a hook in your introduction. You don't want to be boring. Okay? And this is a story, and the way to make it, one really great way to make it interesting. You ever watch a movie where right at the beginning it starts off with someone getting shot? And then it takes you back, it says 6 months earlier. Right? So that's kind of the idea here. You catch everybody's attention with like this dramatic climax event right in the introduction, and then you back up and then tell the story using scenes and summaries, and we'll talk about that in the body of your paper. It's just an idea. You can start the way you mentioned as well. What you can't do is be boring. Okay? All right. Who's reading? Read the next one.
You don't need to write up a formal outline for narrative essays unless it's part of the assignment, or it really helps you to write. Listing the major scenes that need to be a part of the story will help you get organized and find a place to start.
Yeah. So the most important thing to help you get organized is think about the story and the important events and list them in order. Okay? Once you've captured that in your mind, then it's easy to play with it. And then you can figure out what the sequence and how you want to put it in the story, that kind of thing. All right. Then second, what time is it, by the way? 2. Oh, we're good. We're good. Okay. Number 2. Rafid, what is number 2?
Use a consistent point of view.
Does that make sense to you? Use a consistent point of view. Let's find out what he means by that. Read the bullet point.
Generally, narrative essays will be written in first person, making use of I statements, which is unusual compared to other assignments you will be given in school. Whether you are giving us sentences with dialogue or discussing what happened in past tense, it's perfectly fine to use first person in a narrative essay.
Wonderful. Everybody relax. You can use I. Okay? It's okay. Read bullet point 1.
Don't switch perspective throughout the story. This is a difficult and advanced technique to try and pull off, and it usually has the effect of being too complicated. There should only be one I in the story.
Okay, so perspective means who's talking in the story, right? So if you're gonna use I as in yourself, keep it yourself talking the whole time. Don't switch to someone else. You know what I mean? Generally, keep it all I in a sense. Okay, if you're talking about someone else, fine, you can say he or she. But in other words, if you're the one talking about the story, like we're living your life through your eyes, then keep it that way throughout the story. Keep that perspective. It can be done. I mean, you can, but it's really advanced writing, and it can get. Yeah. Okay. Read the next point. Who's reading?
In general, narrative essays and short stories for that matter should also be told in past tense.
Say it again. What tense?
Past tense.
Yeah. This is a story about your what? Your past. That's why past tense works the best, but we also talked about using past perfect and present perfect. Okay.
So, you would write, Johnny and I walk to the store every Thursday. Not, Johnny and I are walking to the store like we do every day, every Thursday.
Yeah, be careful, okay, with verb tenses. Is that clear? Everybody good? All right, let's jump over Abdul Malik. Look at number 3, point number 3. What does it say right here, Abdul Malik?
Describe the important characters.
There you go.
Who else is important to the story other than yourself? Who else was present when the story took place? Who affected the outcome of the story? What specific, particular detail can you remember about the people in the story? Use this to help build the characters into real people.
Good. Good. Keep going, yeah.
Particular details are specific and only particular to the character being described. While it may be specific to say that your friend has brown hair, green eyes, is 5 feet tall, with an athletic build. This thing don't tell us much about the character. The fact that he only wears silk dragon shirts. Now that gives us something interesting.
Yeah, okay, stop a second. So listen, when you're describing a character, you want to make them as vivid as possible. So if I just say, for instance, if I described one of you guys in here with dark brown curly hair, light brown skin, about 5'6", wearing, business casual, could you find the person I'm talking about?
Yes, me.
Listen, the point is it could be anybody. So you want to think of that person and in some way think of something that makes them stand out. Maybe they had a huge nose. Maybe they were a geek, right? Maybe they were a hateful person. And you want to use a description of them that helps us see that aspect of the person. Does that make sense?
By telling the story.
Yes. By describing them in a specific way. Like here, he mentions, don't tell me, I don't need to know, how tall they were and the color of their hair. It would be more interesting to tell me that this funny guy would always wear shorts with dragons on it, right? I mean, he was some weird guy, right? So that's more interesting. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Second point. Who's reading?
Try writing up a brief sketch of each principal character in your narrative essay, along with the specific details you remember about them. Pick a few essentials.
There you go. So again, this is another part of the brainstorm for a story. If you want to write a good story, think about the people that were there or that affected you, right? And just sit and think about them a minute and write down as many descriptive words as you can think of about them, or the thing that seems most important to the story about the person, and then pick one or two of those characteristics and really exaggerate it, or really draw our attention. Use all your power, right, to make that the most important characteristic about the person in the story. And it makes it much more colorful and vivid. Does that make sense? All right, so you kind of want to brainstorm your people in the story. Not you, right, but the other person or people. All right? How are we doing? I feel like, are you guys tired?
Yes.
Afternoons are tough, aren't they?
Yeah.
You have any questions so far? Is this helpful for you?
Yes.
Let's keep plodding along. We got a little ways to go. Or would you like to take a break from this and read a sample essay? And then we'll come back